Hi there, I'm Dr. Japji and I'd like to talk about the impact of implicit bias on efforts to improve equity in the workplace. But first, I'll note that when we talk about equity in the workplace, we're talking about a concept sometimes referred to as diversity and inclusion, diversity, equity, and inclusion, more recently, justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And one of the things that we do know is that there's a strong business case for improving diversity in the workplace. In fact, we have studies from Deloitte, Harvard Business Review, and McKinsey demonstrating that higher levels of diversity and inclusion all the way through an organization's structure has positive impacts on all sorts of things, including innovation, productivity, profitability. And so, understandably, this is a goal that we'd like to achieve. As we work to improve levels of diversity and inclusion, we face some challenges. In fact, a 2020 study that looked at over 170 studies covering a period from 1990 to 2017 found that while the benefits of inclusion were clear, the benefits of efforts to improve it were inconsistent. In other words, efforts to improve diversity and inclusion are not always successful. And when they are unsuccessful, more recent studies have suggested that the reason for this is that these are simply systematic solutions. These are simply structural, there's questions around tokenism, etc. And the suggestion is that the initiatives that are successful are those that are meaningfully integrated all the way up the power structure, including senior leadership and CEOs, and that these are genuinely aligned. So what we're talking about here is having a felt sense that throughout the entire organization, these feelings are consistent. Of course, the challenge with implicit bias is that it actually happens at the subconscious level. So it's happening subconsciously, and it's actually often contrary to our consciously held beliefs. So when we have implicit bias, we don't know about it. And additionally, it operates very quickly. It's triggered by rapid automatic responses. So it's unconscious, it's against our conscious beliefs, and it's happening very fast. And so you gotta wonder, is it possible for us to fix this? Now, of course, this is super challenging. Why is it so hard? Well, it's so hard because it happens in the amygdala. The amygdala is a part of the brain that has remained consistent over evolution for millions of years. So much so that neuroscientists often refer to it as the reptilian brain. This part of the brain has kept us alive and is responsible for our fight or flight response. So it's really literally operates at a visceral level, which of course makes it quite challenging to change. When we try to shift our attitudes and our approaches using systems and structures, those parts operate predominantly from the newer part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex. And that's about as far as we need to go with that, but when we use our prefrontal cortex, these operations actually literally happen after those that happen in the amygdala, and so we're not actually getting at the root of it. So the question becomes, are we stuck? No, we are not stuck, fortunately. So it turns out that, just as we have studies that have demonstrated that increased levels of diversity have all kinds of benefits, financial, social, moral, etc. And we've had studies that have demonstrated that just trying doesn't necessarily bring us those benefits. We also have a growing body of research that demonstrates that we can actually shift our implicit bias. How can we shift our implicit bias? We can shift our implicit bias with gradual practiced work using a combination of cognitive and somatic approaches. What does that mean? So cognitive is of the rational brain, and somatic is literally of the body. So we bring the body into a state and practice things that are absorbed in a way that is parallel to the way that we initially have formed the preconceived notions that have substantiated our implicit biases. So with practice and over time, using cognitive and somatic work in conjunction, we are in fact able to shift our implicit biases, thereby enabling us to more effectively, meaningfully improve diversity, equity, and inclusion, and in turn, ultimately reaping the benefits on many, many levels. Thanks again for your time, and I hope that you have a fantastic day. Take care. Bye.